A doctor once told one of his patients that he had to run 8 kilometers a day for 300 days for his disease to be cured. 300 days later, the patient called the doctor, saying that he was all better, but that there was one problem. "What's the problem?" asked the doctor. "I'm 2,400 kilometers away from home." I find this joke the funniest joke of all times. Perhaps because it's a typical Afghani joke. I've spent more than half of my life in places other than my motherland, yet no joke can make me laugh as hard as an Afghani joke can. No song can make me dance as cheerfully as an Afghani song can. I was born in the capital city of Afghanistan, Kabul, raised in a home where I was always associated with writers, poets, and books. As a young girl, I saw how much respect my parents received from people in Kabul, and how highly my grandfather's devotees spoke of him. I always knew education and learning is the most valued treasure in my family. My parents would always say that knowledge is the one thing no one can steal from you, the one thing you can always keep with you. My siblings and I were our happiest selves when my dad took us to the bookstore, our little heaven, where we would simply lose it and run around hunting for good books. He often took us to the zoo, ruined palaces, and other historical sites in Kabul. I loved going to all these places, and I loved listening to him talk about the history of our country, our philosophy, our complexity of human mind. On Fridays, we usually went to Parwan, a province to the north of Kabul. Afghan culture is very family-oriented. My neighbors, my aunts, their neighbors, my cousins' cousins, and so on would all be present, usually about 100 people. After paying our respects, saying hi, giving 3 kisses on the cheeks, and shaking hands with everyone, my cousin and I would sprint out of the room. We would go say hi to our favorite horses, and although I never dared touch them, I would wave my hand and adore them from distance. We would pick up peaches and eat so many that our stomachs hurt. We played hide and seek with all the kids around grapevines. I used to attend a Turkish school. We were all fluent in Turkish. We took 15 yearly courses, 8 classes per day, and yet we were so happy that I remember crying during our school breaks because I missed everyone so badly. This was probably the very reason why I wasn't pleased when my mother, a professor at Kabul University and a diplomat, was appointed as the ambassador in the Nordic countries. But we soon found ourselves on Scandinavian land, having left everything behind. Needless to say, it was tough, and I spent most of my first days wishing to go back where I belonged. But I'm not one to wait for my problems to be fixed. It suffocates me. So I chose to make the experience a good one, and I did. I treasure those 3 years. I like to think of Norway as my second home, the place where I matured, where I learned a new language, where I was always welcome. When I applied to Groton, I decided not to worry about having to speak English 24/7, or anything of that sort. I chose to concentrate only and only on how it would help me learn more, complete my education, and get me closer to do what I want. The image most people have of Afghanistan is that of a huge desert with long-bearded barbaric men and uneducated poor women. I have met open-minded Americans who understand even without me telling them, who know what's going on, who are hopeful. But some think I've been saved, and some feel sorry for me and say, "Oh my God, I didn't know you were from Afghanistan, I'm so sorry." Some are just curious and ask me questions like, "So how many wives does your dad have? Do you have to marry your cousin? Are you like oil money Middle Eastern or the refugee kind? Were you like so sad when we called Osama? I know he's one of your people. Are you like totally happy that our troops are making us civilized in Afghanistan? Is it time for you to pray on your little magic carpet thing? Can you teach me how to say, "Don't blow me up, I have Muslim friends," in Afghanistan? Americans always talk about values like individualism, and yet see us all in one group. You can't watch the news and decide that's how Afghans are. Nor can you look at me and decide that's how all Afghans are. We are a multi-ethnic society. Our national anthem mentions 14 ethnic groups. There are over 40 languages and 200 dialects. It has been over 3 decades of war. My people haven't lived many days in peace. And it certainly doesn't feel good when you hesitate to read the news, afraid of saying Afghanistan's name, afraid of finding out how many more people have died. 20 Afghan civilians died in a suicide attack. 4 people kidnapped. 10 people shot. 50 bodies found. I hate this feeling of uselessness. There's nothing I can do that would stop the wickedness. All I can do is sit, cry, and then continue living my life, nothing else. All of you have known a single story about Afghanistan, the story of war. It is a complicated place, and even I get confused and can't quite tell what's going on. But it's also a matter of perspective. I could tell you that my grandmother had to secretly study with her brothers, hiding from her dad, because at the time it was unacceptable for girls to even touch books. Or I could tell you that she grew up to be an independent woman, graduated from Queensland University. She was one of the 1,000 women proposed for the Nobel Peace Prize of 2005 and helped hundreds of Afghan women become literate. I could tell you that my grandfather had to leave his motherland because of the war. Or I could tell you that he's a genius who wrote his first poem when he was 9. His first published poem was when he was 11. He attended Columbia and is a literary leader to many Persian poets, writers, and linguists. I could tell you that my dad couldn't go to college because all male high school graduates were required to fight in the war. And my grandmother had to use all her money to get him to Iran to save his life. Or I could tell you that 6 years ago, when he finally had the opportunity, he chose to go to college and get the best grades out of all his classmates. And the fact that he was 40 years old at this time made no difference. I could tell you that after graduating from college, my mom had to stay home for 6 years because of the war. But I could tell you that after the Taliban reign was over, she worked hard every minute of her life. She became a professor, teaching people what she was passionate about, published 3 books, and is now the only female ambassador for Afghanistan. We went to school every day. Everybody went to work, continuing with our daily routines. No, we didn't know if we would be the victims of the next suicide bomb a few miles away or not, but sitting at home and waiting for the disaster to be over isn't the solution. When you're so aware of how cruel the world can be, you learn to grab every chance to laugh, to be happy, to help others. We have feminist men, educated women, and strong people determined to bring a change. We know too well that if we don't work hard to make that happen, it probably never will. I can't wait for the day when I'm not afraid of reading the news, when I'm not worried about my people, my family, and myself to return home safely. Just like the patient ran 2,400 kilometers to cure his disease, I am here with Groton. I am around 7,000 miles away from home. I don't speak Persian every day, and I really miss it. I don't go to Padwan on Fridays. I don't play hide and seek around grapevines. I don't go to field trips with my dad anymore. And sometimes I feel like I'm all by myself out in the world, in a strange land. Sometimes it's suffocating. Sometimes I want to give it all up, pack my bags, and go back home. Wouldn't that be so much easier? But deep inside, I know I won't, because I have taken a step of the long journey I have ahead of myself. And I'll walk this journey with my sister, whom I look up to, my parents, who are my greatest inspiration, and with everyone else who's tired of injustice, everyone who's tired of inequality, everyone who wants peace. An Afghan proverb says, "There's a path to even the tallest mountain," which means don't be afraid of dreaming big, because you will eventually achieve it, and your story will have a happy ending. And if it doesn't, then that's not the end.